guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren and today's video is going to be the first in a series of videos that I'm doing all about agoraphobia. I've said a couple of times before that there wasn't just one particular thing that helped me to recover from agoraphobia. It was more like, 5 or 6 things combined. And instead of talking about those in one big video that's really overwhelming with a lot of information, I thought that I would split it all up. And that way you can kind of take what resonates with you and then leave what doesn't. Because obviously we're all different, our journeys are different, and what relates to your agoraphobia might not relate to somebody else's. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about mindset, which was it was the first thing that I did to recover from agoraphobia, but it was also one of the really key parts. And I'm talking about mindset, I mean obviously the way that you're thinking about your agoraphobia, but also the way you're going to approach exposure sessions, which in my opinion is the only way you can really recover from agoraphobia. The only way you're going to stop being scared of the stuff that freaks you out is by doing the stuff that freaks you out and finding out that it's not as scary as you made it out to be. Exposure therapy, exposure sessions, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have to be a really planned out methodological thing, if that's the right word. I did it kind of all over the place, and I'm going to explain that in another video. But before you start doing that, you really need to get in the right frame of mind. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. That was really long-winded. The first thing that's really important in changing your mindset is really getting clear on what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. Now, I know you're probably already very clear on what it is that you don't want. When I was really in the depths of agoraphobia, I knew what I didn't want because I was living it every single day. I was kind of really focused on that. I was really sort of just in a lot of pain, in a lot of emotional and physical and mental pain, and that's what I was focusing on all the time. So the first thing that I want you to do is get a little journal or whatever, a notepad even, and start making a couple of lists. So I did this, I still have my journal somewhere with all these lists written in it. And the first list I wrote was what I wanted my life to look like 5 years from now without agoraphobia. My list looked like, I wanted to travel, I wanted a certain type of job, I wanted, to be doing these certain hobbies, I wanted to be taking my daughter all over the world, I wanted to be able to take her on family holidays and things like that. I wanted to be able to have Christmas dinner at my mum's house rather than, having everyone at my house because I'm agoraphobic and I can't go anywhere. So I made it really extensive and I was very, very clear about it. And obviously there's going to be things that come up where you're like, but I can't do that because I'm agoraphobic, such as travel. Just forget about that for now and just write exactly what you want out of life and what you want your life to look like. Then I wrote a list of how I was going to feel when I got to that place. So how is it going to feel when I'm somebody who travels without freaking out about it? How's it going to feel when I'm somebody who's working in a job that I love rather than not working at all? And I really sort of got in that zone of how I thought that would feel. That can be hard to do when you're so deep in the grip of agoraphobia. So if you can't really get there, that's okay. Just write I'm gonna feel proud or I'm gonna feel happy or, just anything. Then I wrote a list of all the things that were gonna happen if I didn't beat agoraphobia. So for example, I wrote things like my relationships were gonna break down. I was probably going to get more depressed. My daughter wasn't going to be able to see the world the way I wanted her to because I was going to have her at home every day. Her mum wouldn't be able to take her out. This list obviously is kind of depressing to write, but also it helps because you're like, here is what I want and here is what's going to happen if I'm not willing to put in the work to get there. These are the reasons that I want to get better, because if I don't, this is the path that I'm heading down. The next thing that I did was I really researched wellness. One of the major books that was a bit of a game changer for me was this one, which my sister recommended to me. It's You Can Heal Your Life by Louise. She was like, just ignore the title, it's very cheesy, but it's a really, really, really good book. Basically about how everything in our life that we feel like we need to fix about ourselves, really we can fix with a lot of self-compassion and a lot of love. There's a whole section in the book that is about, for example, if you are somebody who experiences chronic diarrhea, which we know is one of my subjects that I like to talk about, it says what your real fear is rejection. And then it gives you a little affirmation to say with that as well. So it's really a good book worth reading. It's old, but it's a classic. Another one of the books I loved was Hope and Help for Your Nerves by Dr. Claire Weekes, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, Face Your Fears by David Tolin. Obviously, those are all quite anxiety/panic disorder related books, but this one isn't. It's sort of across the board wellness. And the other one that I loved that was pivotal for me in changing my agoraphobia was called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, which is all about why we do the things we do, why your body feels the way it does, and how you get stuck in a loop of thinking and feeling. Books were a major one for me because I love to read, but if you don't like to read, podcasts, movies, documentaries, anything really that inspires you and teaches you. TED Talks are a really great one. There are so many good ones on YouTube. Just learn everything you can about the body and the way it works, and about emotional health, spiritual health, physical health, nutritional health, like everything. Really immerse yourself in wellness, because when you're agoraphobic, you spend so long, like I said, thinking about the things that you don't want and feeling things that you don't want, that can be your focus. And when you are focused on that, you can't see anything else. When you start to change and focus on wellness, it's easier to move towards that because you're not so focused on, disease, I guess. One of the podcasts that I really love is the Mindbodygreen podcast. I'm a really big fan of those. I really loved listening to audiobooks while I was doing other things, by Wayne Dyer, Esther and Hicks as well. I will link all of these in the description box down below. But basically I just loved reading and listening to anything to do with mental health, spiritual health, and emotional health. I found that really helpful in changing my mindset and understanding the way that my body and brain was working. The next thing that I got really into was meditations and affirmations as well. I found it really hard to switch off and do meditations that were just me and my body and the breath. I really struggled to just kind of sit there and like clear my mind or just sort of focus on the breath. Eventually I found that easier, and now that's something I do when I meditate. But back then, because my body was firing with so many sensations and so many thoughts all the time, all I could do was just focus on that. So I would listen to guided meditations. There are some really good Louise ones from the book. There are some really good Joe Dispenza ones from his book as well that you can find on YouTube. But the ones I loved the most were by Dauchsy. I will link him, he is on YouTube. And he does some really great short meditations, but also some really great long meditations that you can listen to as you're going to sleep. And I used to listen to those every night, and they were a great way for me to, when you're going to sleep and you have panic disorder and all you can think about is all the what ifs and all the things that you have to do tomorrow that you're scared of doing, and when is this going to get better and when is it going to end, and just on and on and on in your head. When I was listening to a Dauchsy meditation, I could just completely log out of that and just listen to what he was saying and just go to sleep. And I found that really helpful to calm my body down as well. And then I wouldn't have so many panic attacks in the middle of the night. One of the next things that I think is really key when it comes to mindset is exercise. Now, generally people with anxiety and people with panic disorder and agoraphobia don't love to exercise. Number one, because we're not getting outside. Like when I was agoraphobic, obviously I wasn't leaving the house, so I wasn't going for walks, I wasn't going for runs, I wasn't going to the gym. And so really all I could do was home workouts. But the other reason was I didn't like having my heart rate go up, because I already felt so stressed and anxious every day that when I did exercise, I would start to freak out about my heart pumping so fast and what that meant. This is why that is key, because again, it's facing your fears. You have to do this in order to find out that it's not harmful for you. So because I was inside, I used to do the Kayla Itsines Bikini Body Guide. I don't really need a lot of equipment. I used to do that in my daughter's playroom while I had her at like 3 months old on the floor next to me. First thing in the morning. every morning I would get up and I would do a workout and I would get my heart rate up, and that would help to not only set me up in a positive mindset, but it would help me to deal with those sensations of my heart rate being up and feeling sweaty and feeling flustered, and learning that that wasn't such a terrible thing. If you really don't want to do a high intensity workout, which I understand, some days I didn't feel like doing it either, yoga still is the best thing. Yoga for anxiety is amazing, and it does wonders, because the thing is, with panic disorder sufferers, we are generally so disconnected from our bodies because we're so in our own heads all the time. We are constantly thinking catastrophic thoughts, and like I said, dealing with those really uncomfortable sensations. So we don't like to be in the body. This is why I found yoga really helpful, because I had to be in my body for yoga. You can't do yoga and be somewhere else. You're very focused on your movements, on the breath, on, making sure you're doing what feels okay in your body. It might not be what the yoga instructor is telling you to do, but it has to be okay for you. And you just get this connection with your body that you probably either didn't have before or had forgotten. If high intensity is not your thing, yoga every morning. If yoga is not your thing, try dancing every morning. Whatever it is for you that is physical exercise, you need to be doing some kind of physical activity to change your mindset, especially with agoraphobia, when you are not getting out and about every day and you just can. I know I used to feel really trapped inside my house. I desperately wanted to be out, but I couldn't be out. And I just wanted to go somewhere else. And so physical activity provided me that kind of release. It provided me some time to just not be so caught up in my own thoughts. It helped me to feel stronger. It helped me to feel more positive, and it helped me to release a lot of excess adrenaline that was always pumping around my body. And eventually exercise was the thing that helped me with my exposure sessions, not only because I was already used to those uncomfortable sensations, but because I started going for walks. So it was kind of like a win-win by that point. Either way, exercise is definitely one of the key components of like preparing to recover from agoraphobia. You really need to learn to get reconnected with your body again. The next thing that I found super helpful for mindset was building a little community of people who were going through the same thing as me. So when I first started doing exposure sessions was when I started my Instagram page, which I will link in the description box. If you scroll all the way down to my very first post, I think it was when I went for a walk. Maybe I can like see where I went as well. It was just a couple of houses down and I was sitting on a park bench. Yeah, that was when I started my Instagram page, and I connected with people who were struggling agoraphobics, who were people struggling with panic attacks and anxiety, people from all over the world who were dealing with the same thing as me. And I didn't have anybody in my life who was going through that. I didn't have anyone I knew who understood what I was going through. So that was so helpful. I would post about when I had a bad day, I'd post about when I had a good day, I'd post about what I was nervous about, and I'd read about people who were thinking the same things that I was thinking, and it just helped me to not feel so alone, and it helped me to track my progress as well. I love going back through my Instagram and looking at where I was 4 years ago and what I was freaked out about. Like, I remember the post where I went to the cinema and I posted that I was at the cinema, and I remember sitting there posting that, feeling so anxious and nervous that I was there, but also really proud. And now that's something that I do without even thinking about it. So it's really cool to have that to go back to. You don't have to use Instagram, you don't have to use social media if you don't want to, but because agoraphobia is so isolating, I think it's a really helpful way to connect with people. And I think that, I know that human connection is so important. We all need to feel connected, especially in times like this where the world is very strange at the moment and we're all in lockdown. Social media is a great way to connect with other people going through the same thing. So start an Instagram page, start a YouTube channel, start a blog, even there's lots of Facebook groups. I will say I can't think of what the word is, but kind of like choosy. Be choosy about the kind of groups you join, and make sure it's one that's a bit more geared towards positive thinking rather than one that's just about a lot of, I don't know, like I was in a couple of anxiety Facebook groups like back in the day that were I just felt like it was post after post of really negative things. And it didn't make me feel better, basically. And when you are really working to prepare yourself to sort of face your fears, You don't want to be reading negative stuff every day. So make sure that you are very discerning, is the word I was looking for, and choose a group or a community that supports you and uplifts you and is there for you when you need it, and is able to listen to your venting and your fears, but also doesn't bring you down. So just to recap the key components of changing your mindset: writing lists, getting very clear about what it is that you want, putting that somewhere you can see it every day, being really hungry for information on wellness, books, podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube videos, whatever it is that inspires you and teaches you. Make sure you learn about the body and the brain and how it works. That'll be so helpful for your journey going forward. Make sure you're getting physical activity every single day, learning to be with the body, learning to be with the sensations, and then create a community as well that supports you and uplifts you. I hope that was helpful, guys. The next video is going to be about the basics of exposure sessions. The question I get asked the most frequently is, how long did this take you? So I'm going to be answering that, and if there's anything you want to see in these videos, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to include it. And like I said, I will link everything that I mentioned in this video in the description box.